Rusda2, the Seventh-day Adventist, has this video up called Exposing Roman Catholic Church. Pope is God, Rusda2. Now, he really gets mad and foaming at the mouth when I expose him as a liar and a Catholic hater. And he's given the opportunity to show that not only does he hate Catholics as a lie and lies about the Catholic Church, but the entire Seventh-day Adventist organization, or many within the Seventh-day Adventist organization, are nothing but Catholic haters is what they do. They hate Catholics, apparently. Much like their, and I'll show you in a minute, like their muckyologist, Walter Veith, with amazing discoveries. In this video, Rusda puts up Exposing Roman Catholic Church, Pope is God. He has this quote in there, and he lists the book it came from, and you see the book at the bottom where it came from. You see the quote here. Now then, for anybody who knows how to document something and make a citation, which Rusda2 doesn't do, and very few Seventh-day Adventists apparently seem to. They call themselves scholars but don't even know how to make a documentation. Anyway, if you look at this quote he makes here, and he gives the documentation. First of all, the book that he refers to is written in Latin, not in English. So we don't know if this quote is in this book or not, because the quote itself is in English. Rusda, apparently you must be playing to the illiterate crowd of the Seventh-day Adventists for people not to see this. Here's a book that he's making a quote from that's written in Latin, but yet the quote is in English. First of all, Rusda2 has never read this book. That's why he has never read this book. He doesn't know if it says this or not, because he's never read it. Now, if you have read it, Rusda, here's a book that is written in Latin, but yet you have the phrase in English. What you're saying by putting this quote up like this is that I have read the quote I put here, and this is the book I've got it from. That's exactly what you're saying, Rusda. You're telling the world, I read this quote, and here's where I read it from, when that is a bald-faced lie. It just shows your Catholic hate for Catholic people, is all it's doing. Let's see then. So if this quote is actually in this book that you used the reference to down here, why don't you take a screenshot of this quote where we can see it? It's not in English, I know that. So you didn't read it in the English out of a Latin book. So why don't you just simply take a screen, if Bengali's lying, why don't you simply take a screenshot of this quote out of this book and let us see it, and see it in the context that it's supposed to have been said in. You can't do it because you don't have the book, and you don't know what the book says. You don't know if this quote is in there or not. It's surely not in there in English. But yet that's what you're saying, is that you read this book, and here's where I got this quote, and here's where you got the quote from, when you're just simply lying is what you're doing. More than likely, and I show people this, more than likely, it looks a lot like this, doesn't it? Golly, same picture, same quote, same everything looks like to me. Look at that again. Well, I be dang. Looks like the same thing. Same picture, same quote. Oh, look there on the end, though. What does it say there on the end of this picture that you're seeing now? Emphasis added 11, so that means it's a reference to 11 of wherever this is. It must be number 11 to where we can find the citation. Well, let's see if we can find this somewhere. Uh-oh. Look up there at the top of this, if you will, folks. Amazing Discoveries. Number 11. Just as Rusda showed. And there's the book. Amazing Discoveries, you know who that is? That's our old muckyologist, Walter Veith. So that shows that neither has Walter Veith read this quote out of that book either, which exposes him as a Catholic hater distorting the truth about the Catholic Church. So, Walter, you're quoting the same thing that Rusda did. You're saying the same thing that he's saying, unless it's one of your incompetent staff members. You're saying, I read this quote, here it is, and here's where I got it from. Either your incompetent staff member is lying, or you're lying, Walter. Either way, it doesn't look good for Seventh-day Adventists, does it? If that quote is in the book you've shown us, it's not there in English. It's there in Latin. So, Walter, if you read it, and that's what you're saying you've done, you've made the citation. It's your citation. The quote's there, and you give the source. So it's your citation. You're not listening as a secondary source, or somebody else said it, or somebody else said it, or somebody. You're saying you read it. You take a screenshot of it and put it up for people to see in Latin from the book, so we can see the context of what you said. Walter, by the way, being a big conspiracy theorist, you haven't made this up too, have you? Like you do all this other stuff, like the rabbinical curse that you made up. Is this kind of like that? You just kind of write it out the way you want to. Well, look here, the Pope said he God, and then you just throw it up there. So it looks like Rusda just got all of his material from somewhere else and didn't give them credit for it. But he could have gotten it in numerous sources, because I've seen this in numerous places on Seventh-day Adventist websites. And they list it the same way. And they're saying the same thing Rusda2 said. They're saying the same thing that Walter Reed said. I've read this quote, and here's the book I read it out of. And they're all bald-faced liars. They have not read this out of that book. Somehow or another, they scribbled it themselves and put it in English, but in the book, it would be in Latin, not in English. So if that quote is in the book you cite, in the English language, show us. Just take a screenshot of it, of the book, and show us. Or take a screenshot out of the Latin, in the Latin. Let us look at it and see the context of which is being said in. The point is, Rusda2 simply hates Catholics. He hates me most of all because I expose him to be a Catholic hater and a liar like he is by showing videos like this. This is unconscionable for anyone to lie about the Catholic Church like this, with a quote they've never read, putting it up as though they have read it, out of a book that's written in Latin, and all of a sudden, voila, here's this big English words in a Latin book. As I said earlier, Rusda2 is playing to the illiterate crowd of the Seventh-day Adventist organization. And people say, oh, you shouldn't call them illiterate. I'm just quoting what one of their own past presidents called them, illiterate. Rusda is being exposed as the most illiterate of them all. And a Catholic hater, a liar, and a servant of Satan, never of God. God doesn't go around lying like this, Rusda. You do. And Satan was the father of lies, like you're one of his sons. This is a bald-faced lie you put up here, Rusda. If I'm lying, you put it up in the Latin so we can see it. It's not in English, in a Latin book. You see, Catholics, this is what I've been trying to tell y'all, and other Protestants, if you even care that lies are being told. That's what I've been trying to let Catholics know. You can't trust a thing this man says. He's teed off with me because I show I expose the Seventh-day Adventist and the satanic organization that they are, and he can't say anything about it because I get it right out of their writings. And that's what teases him off more than anything else, is that I get it right out of their writings and show that it comes right out of their writings, and he can't comprehend their own writings or understand their own doctrines or understand the history of the Seventh-day Adventist organization, so he can't respond to anything I put up when it comes to doctrines, because it comes right out of their own writings, and he knows they do. And if he comes out and says something, all he's doing is exposing what I've already said about the Seventh-day Adventist, and especially Rusda. So I hope people on YouTube and those Protestants who care about truth at all say all the things about the Catholic Church, but don't lie about them. Don't make up things like Rusda does. If you've got something to say about the Catholic Church, at least tell the truth about it. We can deal with it when you ask legitimate questions. But to put up lies like this thing that Rusda did is just unconscionable. But see, he doesn't care as long as it's against the Catholic people. He doesn't care as long as it's against the organization that we belong to. He doesn't care if he tells a lie or not. Until next time, this has been God is Saying. God bless.